Hi there, it's Daily Insights on Business and Branding, and today, without any BS, we get right into our insights because I lack the time for talking. So, the first insight that I figured out today or on Friday was your mastery is always going to start inward. Look at other agencies last, at other businesses last, and you'll automatically get more authentic and thoughtful. What is brand and what is business? Business is when you are selling voluntarily stuff that you produce, products or services to the customer. And business becomes a brand when you pair your business with the things your target audience loves, right? And then as it grows into community and people are going back with repeated sales specifically to you, and they are paying that margin that would cost them more than regular product on the market, would mean that you have a brand, and it happens after 2 to 5 years. And what is really important for brands is to become authentic, because first I want to get back why do you need a brand in general. I have whole video for like 53 minutes describing why I need a brand in general, but oh, I'm sorry. I'm in a rural area right now with tons of weird sounds and animals, but it's fine. Why do you need a brand in the first place? There is so much products on the market that would be always cheaper than you. There will always would be a person that is cheaper than you. And you cannot win the market by just being the cheapest option. So you should present something of value except for the price. And that's where brand come to our point of view, and we'll figure out how to be like brand, how to have a brand, is to be authentic, is to be true. And when you are looking around all the time, when you're comparing yourself to other businesses in a niche, when you are constantly chasing something, trends, anything, it's destructive. You can never actually catch up with them. You can never make that long-term strategy. You should be the one creating the brands and setting the brands, setting the agenda, creating something authentic that is true, that would work for you long term, and think about that. And it seems so obvious and it seems like a cliche and like bullshit words. But in fact, when you just unsubscribe, like you can break this blurry thing down into smaller steps, like unsubscribing from most of your competitors, just not following what they do, not following their trends, maybe shutting down your social media, consumption for some period of time. Why am I pushing this idea today? It's been half of a day since I deleted Instagram and other social media platforms, and it feels awesome. Awesome. I cannot highlight it more. I'm not consuming, I'm in my productive mode, and I figure that I'm more creative because the things I implement in the agency right now, it's not just today, right? I had previous before, like half of a year before, when I was not consuming anything for like 4 months. So it was really beneficial, and I'm going back to that because it really helped me. So now I'm sharing that insight with you. When you're not consuming anything, you are the one creating the idea, and it's your idea, it's nobody else's. And as you execute it, that would bring you more results than somebody else's idea. So your mastery is always going to start inward, and that's with your thoughts, with your habit, with the small things you do. And your agency or business or brand starts with you as a business owner. Because if you're organized, if you're creative, if you're put together, that's how your business would go. The second insight, the only thing keeping me back is lack of decision making. How do we lack decision making when we are constantly focusing on our business? We lie to ourselves. Okay, it's becoming irritating. Why are we lying to ourselves? I often like to show how productive I am or how great I am, like just to show off. And I even lie to myself that I'm productive. I can be sitting in front of a laptop for the whole day, but half of the time I would open Instagram in the breaks and I would just, I don't know, fill my mind with bullshit. Or I would turn on some podcast or even worse, series playing in the background just to keep me engaged, just to keep me by the laptop so that I would be performing tasks. Uh, Otherwise, I wouldn't have the energy to accomplish. And I am working, but I'm working like some turtle. It's so slow, it's so not productive, it's so not creative. So we always keep lying to ourselves that we are working, that we are busy, that we are thinking about our business, or think that we do all the time as entrepreneurs, like when we are going to sleep, when we're taking a shower, when we're with our family. And we're actually lying to ourselves. Because when times go hard, like when you have problems, the only thing our mind wants is to run away, is to shut down, is just to distract itself with something. And as I had some problems with agency lately, I I noticed how much more series I watched, how much more distracted I was, how I was engaged in social media or in anything that would keep me away from work. That's not healthy. Like waiting for Friday evening just to go out of your like working mode is destructive. You are creating that work-life balance. I'm not agreeing with that concept. I believe that people should rest, but work-life balance means that you have either work or your life. And work is not your life, and work is destructive, and it's super negative. Well, it's not. It can be hard sometimes, but if you make decisions, it will go easier. You will solve the problems if you are proactive with decisions. But if you're stuck with a problem and you distract yourself with theories, with I don't know, you're like, I want to get advice from different people who are in the niche, who know what should. No, first of all, they do not know what you should be doing. Not all of them. Second of all, you'll spend more time just seeking that advice or waiting for decision to come from the sky upon you or for something to happen so that you wouldn't be the one responsible for taking that road. So it's all about just tricking your mind, just getting away from social media series, all the distractions, take the decision first. Like it would take you 15 minutes and then have easier life for a couple of weeks next. Because sometimes I am not making the decision. I'm making like a wrong decision that would serve everybody else but not me or not the agency, and then I would suffer for 3 weeks ahead. Just because I would say to my client that of course we'll finish your project in couple of more weeks with all the 145 new corrections and improvements that you suggested. Yeah, of course we're gonna be great executor and great agency to work with. And then I would just sit on my own doing that design for a couple more weeks and ruining my life by watching a series just because I hate that project. So that would happen when you're not proactive with decisions. It's deadly. The third insight is agencies, people, teammates can change over time and you can leave them behind. Grieve them, but leave. I was listening to a podcast this morning. I said that I cut off all the stuff, but I cut off actually film, series, Netflix, all the BS and social media. So and music. The only thing left for me is podcast. And I'm not sure whose podcast that was because that was new to me. I will maybe share that later with you. So the woman there said that there can be old versions of yourself that you actually can leave behind. You can grieve them, but really leave behind and not wish them to go back in your life. It applies to businesses, it applies to personalities. What does it mean? So sometimes, let's take example of a person. Sometimes you might think that, oh, I had such a nice life 3 years back, and I was such a nice kid, or so motivated, or so productive, or great, or not limited, or not that negative thinking, or you was just different. They say that people do not change over time. Maybe they do change, because your surrounding, like the apartment, the house, the town, the people around you, the work, activities, habits, they all change. So they change you. And you can become a really different person. Sometimes I would look back at myself, like going to school or just starting in university, and I was a really nice kid. I was super nice. Now I'm not that nice, but I became kind. We'll cover that later, because there is, I think, difference in between being kind and nice is later. So I sometimes might miss that cute, nice Anna, who was so had her hopes up about the world, and we should just grieve that person and leave that person behind, because that's the history. That's not the thing that is like time or your business or brand or your goals or purpose. I'm sorry. Purpose requires at the moment. So just leave them behind. And same thing would go for your team. There would be teammates that would grow apart with the team, that would have different goals in life, different ambitions. They would want to create something of their own, and that's fine, because for some period of time you aligned and now you're not. And do not like try to go back and try to recreate the team that you had initially with that person, or the business that you had initially, just because it's not going to work. It's a history. Try it again and try a new way. Or the rules that you had. Maybe you had rules in your team that everybody used to, but it's not working anymore. It's not beneficial to you anymore. Like, even basic rules, like having your weekly meetings on Monday. What if Monday is not the right day for it? What if middle of the week would work best, and if you think it over, it's fine. So just learn to let go of old habits, old traditions, old self, old businesses, brands, and people, and just embrace new stuff. That's the insight. Super philosophical, super like it took me long to explain, but that was the insight. And no, that's not the last one. That's fourth. One day I felt I felt bad because I was not having fun. The next day I was proud of the things I've built in quiet grind mode. So working on your stuff in quiet mode, or in grind mode, in monk mode, it's fine. As long as like working a lot does not mean harming yourself. But stressing out about work and living and breathing that and having tons of problems that overwhelm you and you cannot get rid of them, this is the thing that would harm you. And when you are just quietly working and you're enjoying your work, that's great. That's awesome. You're creating something new. And it doesn't mean that you should be having fun or laughing all the time at work. You can sometimes be upset, sometimes have problems that you solve, but it's all just bouncing back and forth, and it's going in waves, coming and going, and at some point you will be proud of the result that you've built in that quiet mode. So yeah, embrace it. Like the word of this video is embrace, by ChatGPT. Thank you. But why did I have that thought? So some days I would have fun with the family, with friends, and that would be nice, and I would feel good. And some days I would just be sitting on my own with laptop in the middle of the crowded cafe, cafe where people would be playing with their kids or chatting with their friends. They would be really resting on weekend, and I would not. That was the first time when I felt like some old grandpa sitting in the cafe in a film and just feeling super nostalgic about having great time with family or with friends. It was just human interaction, right? Yeah, so I felt bad about it. But the next day, I would post new video or new reels or new project, or I would make something for my client, and I would see how my client would smile and say how great that is, or how like thankful he is and grateful. Or I would see people liking the post and sharing it and saying like, hey, you saved my day with that post. Like I'm not I'm not saying that it happens really often, but sometimes when it does, I really appreciate it, and I'd feel better off just working in quiet mode and creating something and enjoying the result rather than just partying around. So there is deep meaning into that. And the last final insight is creating the agency is a point of no return. When I was working on my own, I could have not taken payment, or I could have just refused working with projects, or I could have, it was just super chill, not serious, like kindergarten. I was just playing around, goofing around, not knowing where I'm going and not having any responsibilities. But having agency is like bringing child into the world. Like when you just working on your own, maybe you have family like wife and husband, but when you have the agency, it's if you have now kids in the family that you're responsible for, and it brings much more weight on your shoulders, but it also has its own benefits. So yeah, great agency for me, or creating business or building a team, is some point of no return for brands and for businesses, just because you have to take it serious now. And for somebody, it can be weight that is too heavy to lift, just to take up from the ground, and that weight might even break them. So scaling up, taking up new people, or enriching your product line or whatever that you're doing, really worth a thought beforehand, just to make sure that you're strong enough to lift that weight, because it has some benefits. Like you're growing really huge jacked muscles, but it's not for everybody. And I think that in how much now, 6 months, almost 6 months since I launched the agency, I was running like galloping, if there is even such a word, like a gazelle across the land, trying to add as much service as I can, trying to train my team as much as I can, or bring in as many projects to portfolio as I can. And I was just running too much and not caring a lot about quality of it. So these are all the insights for today. I can repeat them. Your mastery starts with inwards. No, it's not. I made a mistake in the sentence. Your mastery is always going to start inward. Think yourself to become authentic for your brand. The only thing keeping me back is lack of decision making. Agencies, people, and teammates can change over time, and you can embrace new and leave the old behind. One day I felt bad because I was not having fun. The next day I was proud of the things I've built in quiet grind mode, and it's more precious. And creating the agency is a point of no return. These are all insights for today, and I'll see you tomorrow.